So we begin turn 2. This is the Axis turn. They're the phasing player. After production point collection and the bonus for the first time capture of these sudden death cities, the Axis have accumulated 14 goods and 7 oil. And they get to use that to organize and upgrade and replenish units and such. They also have a card that is available to them that comes into their hand. This allows Iran to join the Axis. If that happens, all of these hexes over here in Iran are playable now, which isn't going to matter at all in this game, but in the campaign might. The Russians will collect 1 fewer oil per turn, but this reinforcement here that is scheduled for turn 3 will come in immediately. So it's not clear to me whether the Axis should play this card in this short scenario. If it was the long scenario, I think that one oil reduction every turn would matter. So what are we going to do with our goods? Oh, I think I'm about to be interrupted. So what will the Axis do with their bounty? Well, there are some things that I think are no-brainers. You've got some disorganized units. This unit here, outside of Leningrad, that seems like something we should probably reorganize. These 2 units here definitely need to reorganize. They're going to make the push further into Russia. This unit here, I don't know if it needs to reorganize or not. I'm not sure how important that unit is yet. And we definitely need to bump up a couple of our armor units to full strength. So this armor unit here, especially because that's the second Blitz capable armor unit, we'll have to bump up. And this armor unit here, although it's kind of far from the fighting right now, it definitely, the Germans are going to want all their armor at full strength if possible. So those are the things that we are going to do. Reorganizing units costs 1 good, and if it's an upfront unit, which means adjacent to an enemy unit, on a playable hex side, it costs 2. So there's 2 that the Germans spend to reorganize that. Each of these will be this will be a good. So that's another good. And the armor unit is a good and an oil. So that brings the Germans down to 10 remaining goods and 6 remaining oil. Oh, also, the first decision that you have to make at this point is, are you purchasing the offensive kit or not? And the Germans definitely are. And that costs them 2 good and 2 oil. So they're actually down to 8 goods and 4 oil remaining. And as I said, they very much want this to come back to full strength. So that would be a good and an oil plus an additional oil for being up front. So that's 1 more good and 2 more oil. And the Axis are now down to a single oil, but I think it still makes sense to replenish, or they're down to 2 oil, I should say, to replenish that armor unit for a good and an oil. And this air unit here lost a step, and to replenish the air unit, well, we're going to have to choose. Already the production decisions will have to choose between we don't have enough oil to do this armor unit and to do this air unit. So we're going to plop that back, and no, we still don't have enough. Even if we leave that armor unit reduced in its cadre state, no, we will have exactly enough. Yeah, we'll be completely out of oil. So this armor is going to stay a cadre, and the air unit's going to resurrect. I think that they're more mobile and will be more likely to be in this fight. During operational movement, we'll be moving them up closer to the front lines, I think. So that is 1 more good comes off for the Germans. So the Germans are now down to 5 goods and no oil. And should they get this unit reorganized? I think not. they can upgrade the Hungarian unit or the Italian unit, and that costs 2 goods to do that. I think it might make sense to upgrade the Italian unit because that gives it 4 movement points. But the Hungarian unit, although it would get stronger in combat, I think having a cavalry unit that can move around will be a little bit better. So we'll upgrade the Italian unit and get them into the fight, and that leaves the Germans with 3 goods and 0 oil. And during the previous turn, they did not collect any resource production sites at all, and so that's something they might want to think about here. Maybe, I mean, they're trying for Kiev anyway. Odessa is not one. Where else could they possibly get on the second turn to get another factory? It looks like no place. Well, let's go get Kiev then. All right, so that is the production point collection and expenditure phase. And when we come back, we will work on the next part of the administrative phase. Okay, so the Germans have done all of the upgrading, refitting, and replenishing that they are able to do, and now they have to figure out how to try to make their next move. All of the hexes with pyramids on them are claimable as attrition hexes. This hex is claimable if the Axis gets a unit adjacent to it not coming across the river, but this hex, despite that disorganized unit status, is not claimable because it is, oh well, you know, that's not true actually. So the Axis could, I'm going to mark that, the Axis could theoretically claim attrition hexes, claim this hex. No, that's not true, because a unit that advances into an attrition hex cannot advance to claim another one. So that hex cannot be claimed. Cities obviously cannot. So the Germans have easy pickings up here in Riga. They'll just move a unit in there and take it. That'll be no problem at all. And the Russians have done a decent job of setting up some speed bumps here. Ideally, this German armored unit would love to loop all the way around and completely encircle, but it's got to move out of a zone of control and then back into one, and then it can still move, but that's as far as it's going to get. So what the Germans are hoping for by the end of this turn is they'll have Riga, and they will have Kiev, and hopefully Odessa, and ideally, I'm not sure yet which location is more valuable. They get the goods bonus for getting Smolensk, but if the objective is to move on to Moscow, you can't see it on the map because I've got it covered with my camera base here, but I think that it might make more sense for them to try to get this way. But they do not have, as far as I know, they do not have any unit that is able to reach this hex for attrition purposes during the ground movement phase. I don't believe the Axis can get a unit there, so they will not be able to claim this as an attrition hex unless I'm miscalculating that. So the first thing to do next is strategic rail movement, and the Axis is allowed to move a single unit by rail from one friendly controlled location to another that is not up front. So the only rail hexes that are significantly close to the action for the Axis right now is this one, Minsk. They also have Lvov here, but I don't know what good it would do railing a unit to Lvov. And they only have 2 units available on, or 3 units available on railheads. One back here is this cadre infantry unit, which certainly you don't want to waste that move on. The mountain infantry here is a potent unit, and if it moves there, it could move 1, 2, 3, 4, or 4. and get involved in the upfront, the attrition combat. But they also have a unit that's off map here, which is the Italian army, and they spent goods to upgrade this army, so I think they may as well get it into the fray. So it's going to move here during strategic rail movement, so I rotate it. The next phase is operational ground movement, and this is where units that are in the rear are able to use their ground movement points to move one movement point per hex regardless of terrain, but only within friendly controlled hexes and not ending in an upfront hex. So, and those units then are not able to move again. So I need to make sure I leave a unit able to run up here into Riga. I don't want to waste these powerful units here if I can help it. But this infantry here, I don't think it can get anywhere into the fight. So I think it, during ground movement, can it get there? 1, 2, 3, no, 4, 5. It'll have to be this unit, 1, 2, 3, 4, that will capture Riga, and then at least it'll be in a railhead there. So it probably makes sense to use operational movement for this, because 1, 2, 3, 4, it will not, wait, 1, 2, 3, yeah, it cannot, the 9th Army cannot get into the fight, and so I think I'll do that. I think I'll use operational movement to get it closer. Well, okay, so maybe the Italians shouldn't have been there, because I could then, well, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ideally, I'd like to leave it behind at this hex. Are the Italians really worth it? My plan for this armored unit is to move 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to get out of this Zoc and into another Zoc is 2 more, which is 6. And then I'll have an armor unit there and an armor unit there. That they don't get the armor bonus for attacking the city, but I think I'll be able to capture Kiev pretty easily. And then I should also be able to have my units in good shape for the Blitz phase at that point. So I think I'll leave this all where it is. I will move 1, 2. Oh no, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now the Italians are able to move again, and now this unit has moved. It's a friendly controlled hex, so they can move there operationally, and they will not be able to take part in anything else. This unit here, I believe, is also in a situation where, oh, I should have indicated this is, no, that's not friendly controlled. The zone of control doesn't cross over the river, so it can't use operational movement to move there. It could, this unit could, however, go 1, 2, 3 and stop its movement right there. It can be, as long as it's not overstacked at the end of its movement phase. I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. So who else do we have that should move operationally? Probably these cadre units back here. You know, just getting 1, 2, 3 right there. 1, 2. Yeah, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. I think I'll sort of prep them. This disorganized unit here can't do too much. I'm going to move it. Well, no, its movement is half, so it could move here. I don't know if that matters or not, but I'll move it there. What about this unit? 1, 2. This unit will be able to get into the attrition, fighting, and ground combat phase potentially. So we're going to save it. The Hungarian cavalry, I kept them as a cadre so that I could get that 4th movement point, and that will come in handy. Yeah, I don't. This unit will be able to get involved. I don't think I have any other units to Well, this armor unit here, can this armor unit get into the fight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, it can get into the fight some, and probably should. So and now the other thing that you can do during operational movement is move your air units. And so the Axis definitely wants their air units closer to the front. So this air army will move up there. And I don't really think they have any other air bases that are productively usable. So that is my, I'm just going to make these completely upside down so I don't mistakenly remove them. He has not moved, he's not moved. They have moved. The air units won't matter, they don't move. Okay, so I believe that that is my operational movement. I need to do a brief pause and then come back for the regular ground movement phase, trying to see if I can get myself set up effectively for attrition and ground combat. All right, well, I managed to drop my camera on the map, but I'm pretty sure I got everything back as it needs to be. And so we are at the German ground movement phase, and we are looking to get into position to drive on Moscow here. So to begin with, I'll start with this Blitz capable armor unit. It moves 1, 2 to move out of the ZOC, and then 3 to move into another zone of control, and then 4, 5 to move directly from one zone of control to another. It has completed its ground movement and is in position to be in some way helpful. The second army here is going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is its movement allowance, so it is there. The mountain infantry with a movement factor of 5 can actually get a couple different places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It could get right there. I think that's good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that's good placement for the mountain infantry, even though they're running around in the wide open plains. And the Hungarian cavalry, 1, 2, 3. Do I want here or here? 1, 2. I'm going to come back to the cavalry. I want to see where else Axis units end up. So, yeah, so somewhere I flopped, in my map drop, I flopped a German unit out of Constanta. And, oh yes, it was, no, I had moved them, right? And they were not out of supply. This unit is disorganized, is what it was saying. Where? Here we go. Okay, so, no, that's not right either. Now I'm going to pause for a second here. So, I believe that this is how the map's supposed to be. I believe there was no German unit there. If I'm wrong, the Germans will be angry with me. So, what else? So, this, the 6th here, it could move 1, 2, 3, 4 and be there. And then if we claim the attrition hex, come down there. And that would, but that's difficult terrain there, right? So I think that it makes more sense. 1, 2, well, so basically 1, 2, 3, it could get down here and be part of attrition there. But I don't think I need all that combat power down south. I think that they'll just move the 2 movement points for moving from one zone of control to another, and then they have to stop because they moved into the same unit zone of control. So that looks okay to me. The German 11th, it's a cadre, but it's still pretty good, potent unit. It can move 1, 2 for the river, 3 for moving. No, that's not right. It cannot move that way. It could move 1, 2, 3, and then it'll be stuck. So that unit has to stay there. This mountain unit 1, 2, 3 can loop around there to become part of the fight. And one, two, three. I think 4. And I think with what I'm trying to do, I would rather have this mountain unit here so that it can take part in ground combat against, I think is that Riga? Kiev. I've never been good with geography of the Russian cities, even though I play so many of these games. Now, the Romanians, 1, 2, 3, and no, wait, those are the Hungarians there. Are they the Hungarians? Romanians? You'd think I'd know. That's the Hungarians. These are the Romanians, and so they could move 1, 2, 3, and so they can't make these move. They can't claim hexes by going across the rivers there. But this unit moved. I don't think I have any other way to get them into. There's no minimum movement here, right? So this would be 2 and then 1 for the moving out of the Zak. This would be 2 and then plus 2, so it doesn't have it. It could, this unit could move here for 1, 2. No, it can't. They're just staying there. Okay, let's move up north here, which is arguably the most important thing. So this unit here moves 1, 2, 3, 4, and captures Riga, giving the Soviets some bonus goods during their next production phase, if they still hold there, which they certainly will. This armor unit here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think its only useful purpose is to get up there. The Italians, who we moved by rail, can move again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this armored unit here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and now it can move 5, 6 from one zone of control to another. Which I think, does that make sense, or would they be better off being here, being able to claim that as an attrition hex? That leaves an attack here kind of thin, and we definitely want to take Kiev. I don't think I have, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I don't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't think we have a very good, I don't think I have a very good way to get more troops down there. Well, hold on. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think maybe we'll send that unit there, and then this big bad boy here, 1, 2, 3, 4. He can, yeah, I guess he has to go there to get into the combat, to get up front. So that looks like the movement that I have available. Yeah, I don't believe that there is any other good option. There are any other good options for the Germans, so we will leave their moves there, and we'll straighten all of this stuff out now because we will be coming back for the attrition phase. Okay, so we have come to the attrition phase of the second Axis turn. The attrition, the front line, upfront unit count was 68 to 22 in favor of the Germans, and they have armor and air superiority. So, looking at our trusty table, this is 22 for the non-phasing player, and 63 is here, and then 1-2 columns. So there are going to be 4 battle markers for the Germans to use in combat because they did purchase the offensive kit. And the Soviets will have to suffer 4 hits, and the Germans will be able to claim 4 attrition hexes. So the Soviets have to decide which units to inflict hits on. So this unit is clearly going to be eliminated and could be a good hex it could be a good unit to put a hit on, but when a unit that receives a hit in the attrition phase is eliminated, that allows an adjacent Axis unit to advance 1 hex, and so that would allow the Romanian army here to move up a little bit closer, which could really help them during combat if they decide, or blitz combat. They won't be in blitz combat, but it could help them if they decide to try to attack and take Odessa on this turn. So the Soviets are not so keen on that. This unit is completely toast, and so it's an easy choice for one of the hits. This unit here is almost certainly completely toast, and the Germans are able to claim that as an attrition hex. And so, so I think that the Soviets, and another reason not to get rid of this, and that doesn't really matter, does it? The Soviets will take a hit on that unit. Last time I did a turn for the Soviets, I said, the Germans aren't going to attack Leningrad, and I took a hit up there, and then they attacked Leningrad, and it went badly. That unit was eliminated, so they're not going to take a hit on that unit, but they still have 2 hits that they have to dole out, and the rest of their units are units that they really don't want to lose. I think it's likely that the Germans aren't going to focus any kind of offensive firepower on this unit here, so I think putting that in a disorganized state is probably a decent idea, although these, all these units will be out of supply and surrender, and it'll be harder to bring them back when they surrender. But, this is the thing here that the Russians don't want to lose track of, so I think that they'll put a 3rd hit there. And now the question, I think, is where to put the next hit. So they will have the ability to reorganize next turn at a discount. And so, to me, I think, and this was risky when I did it in Leningrad, but the unit in Odessa here, the Germans aren't going to launch they're not able to launch an attack against it. They're across the river, even if it's disorganized, that can't be claimed as an attrition hex. And it seems very unlikely that the Germans are going to expend their Blitz resources to not only try to advance on Moscow, but circle down here. And so I think that is a relatively good placement for the final hit that the Soviets have to inflict upon themselves. We will find out soon enough if I am correct about that. And I guess they could take a hit here, right? Maybe that's actually even more sensible. Taking a hit there, it seems very unlikely that unit will end up out of supply. I guess so there's sea supply here, right? So these two units here. Yeah, I mean, they're not going to attack 1 to 2. Yeah, I think that makes more sense to take that 4th hit there. We'll find out. The people who have played this game at the expert level can tell me what they think. And now the Germans have to start claiming they have 4 attrition hexes that they are allowed to claim. And which hexes shall they be? The Germans could in fact claim that as an attrition hex. And it might make sense to do that just to have an excuse to bring these 2 units closer to the fray, get them more involved in things. The Germans could certainly claim this as an attrition hex, and I'm thinking maybe they will. This is not claimable because they would have to cross a river, but this hex is claimable. So there's no question that the Germans are going to take this as one of their claimed attrition hexes. And the units, they have to advance at least 1, and they may advance 2. And so yeah, so for combat purposes, I think that they'll leave their cadre unit here with the hope of refitting it not as a frontline unit, and they'll bring these 2 full-strength armies into this hex. So that's 1 attrition hex for sure that the Germans want to claim. Now, this is a forest hex, and this is a claimable hex, and that might be the sort of weakest part of the Soviet defense. I'm going to just rotate these so I know I've used them. I won't probably forget. So I do think that we, as the German High Command, very much want to claim this hex. Yes, that seems to make sense. And so the Soviets now have to retreat, and they probably should retreat into more defensible terrain. And the Germans now have to decide which unit or units should advance into that hex. It seems kind of like it doesn't matter, right? If the Germans decide to use one of their attacks on this unit, it's out in the open. And so then they would have 8 to 3. They'd have 2 to 1 to start. Could they get an air unit up there? Yeah. But is that really the hex that they want? The Germans certainly want to take Smolensk this turn. They're definitely gearing up to do that. And so I think that the Germans will only advance 1 unit into this hex, and then they can do an attack there if they want to. Now, this is also a forest hex, and so is claimable, and without any question, that is one of the hexes that the Germans want to claim, so that will be their 3rd claimed attrition hex. This unit will have to retreat. It probably makes sense to retreat there. And again, I think that the Germans will only send this armor unit here because at the end of things, this Blitz unit wants to be adjacent to as many units as it can so that they can activate in the Blitz phase. So that's the 3rd. 1, 2, 3. That's the 3rd of 4 claimed hexes. I brought out too many chips. So what should the Germans take as their 4th hex? They can't take it here. I think that they could. I'm pretty sure that I think this is legal. That now that there's a unit here, this terrain is attrition hex claimable. Maybe the Soviets should have thought that through a little more. But I think that that's legal. I think that the Axis is allowed to do that. So they're going to go ahead and move up there for the attrition phase. I'm just counting hexes to see how far the German air units are able to advance. Oh, this Soviet air unit that was here, it needs to rebase. And it was in supply at the beginning of the turn. And so it probably makes, well, where does it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. It can. The Soviets don't have any air reactions in this combat phase, but they're going to want to bring their air units up into the area where they can start to be useful to defend Moscow. And yeah, so that is, I think, what the Germans are going to do in terms of claiming attrition hexes. And although, should they, you know what, I think instead of this, I think that the Germans do want to do this. This unit will have to retreat there because I think that they do want to be able to engage in combat with these units and thus hopefully get them adjacent to this armored unit after the combat phase ends in order to be part of the Blitz phase. Those are pretty powerful units. They probably won't be able to get into any Blitz combat, but you know, the infantry can sort of move around and try to seal the Russian units that have been bypassed in a little bit. So that's what I think the Germans will do. So that is the attrition phase, and I believe at this point that I have done all I can for attrition, and so we'll soon be back for combat. We are at the ground combat phase of the second turn for the Axis player, and the Germans are able to initiate 4 ground combats. And so you don't have to do this ahead of time in this game, but I'm thinking ahead of where should these attacks happen. So certainly we want to take Smolensk here, right? So that's definitely going to be an attack. So the question is, do I launch that with just these 2 armor units, or do I include this infantry unit? That would make a significant difference. The reason not to include this infantry unit would be if I wanted to also attack this hex. That would be a relatively low odds attack, but even disorganizing that Soviet unit right there could be very helpful, and being able to advance into this hex could be very helpful in the upcoming Blitz phase and in the next turn if we're trying to rush Moscow. Another certain attack is going to be here. This is what, Kiev, right? We're going to definitely attack Kiev, and it looks like it'll be pretty straightforward and easy to take Kiev here. We have air support for that attack. We also have air support for both of these hexes if we want it. And so that'll be a second combat. I think that I will attack here. That should be a very easy combat because this Russian unit is disorganized, and that allows these 2 pretty potent infantry units to get into this hex, which means, assuming we clear Kiev here, that the Blitz-capable armor unit will be one of the units that advances, and then these units will be able to be part of the Blitz phase, which is important. So that's 3 of the 4 attacks. So now I've got to decide on the 4th attack. We would really like to take Odessa. Problem with trying to take Odessa is that the Soviets, even though these units are in trouble here, there's still supply coming through, and the units can sort of retreat their way back if they need to try to get into defending Sevastopol down there, which I don't think the Germans are going to even be moving for in this particular game. So I could launch an attack here. That would be quite an easy attack to win. Almost certainly would just roll over that unit and destroy it. I could launch a relatively low odds attack here, and then a somewhat stronger attack here. I do have 1 air unit here, which is a single shift, but then there's an air unit here which I probably don't need there. But I think since I only have one attack left to make, it just makes sense to do the attack that is slightly more closer to a sure thing. So that looks like the attacks I will do. Now, if you're playing this game, you are just declaring an attack, resolving the attack, and then moving on to the next one. So I'm not obligated to stick with this, but my opponent will be angry if I switch midstream. So let's get rolling. So what that means, though, is, so that means that this infantry is going to be part of this attack here, which is good. Also, of note, I made a mistake in the earlier turn when I had a combat happen in Leningrad. I forgot it's a fortress. I'm pretty sure I did not triple the defender there. So all of the stuff that happened up here, the point is moot, and that there's no way that the Axis is taking Leningrad here. If I wanted to get to Leningrad, I'd have to have really headed in that direction early on and surrounded it and, brought air units into play and such. So, yeah, so I wish I could have gotten that unit there, huh? But I didn't. So here we go. So we'll attack this hex. So this is, we've got 12, 15 ground factors attacking 3, but they're doubled for being in a city. And so that becomes a 6. So that starts us out at 2-1. And this air unit here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It can come up and be part of this combat. The Russians do not have any air reactions, so they cannot respond. I realized, as I was thinking about this game, that in the 4-turn scenario, the Russians would probably have been better off playing Sturmovik instead of the Great Patriotic War. Even with the discounts, I have a feeling that over the course of 4 turns, having one more turn of production and being able to get some more units in play would have been helpful. But I also don't think that I'm managing the Germans very effectively here either. So anyway, we've got, to start with, we have a 2-1 attack going into this city. There's no armor bonus because it's urban terrain. So there's 2 shifts for the full-strength air unit. So that makes it 4-1, and there are 2 non-adjacent hexes launching this attack. So that makes it 2-1, 3, 4, 5-1, and at least 1 unit is not crossing the river. And so I think I'm right about that, no, you know what? I better pause and find out about the river. All right, so I believe that this unit that's attacking across the river has its value halved. So that would be a 13-6, so that's still the same odds of starting at 2-1 and then air support and the non-adjacent hexes, bringing it up to 5-1. So is this dice tray in the shot? So rolling on the 5-1 column, that should, I think, get the job done. Let's see what happens on the 5-1 column with a roll of 3. That is 3 hits to the non-phasing player and 0 hits to the attacker. So indeed, this unit becomes disorganized and then is eliminated, goes to the dead units pool. And so the Axis now decides which units to advance into that hex, and certainly they'll bring their Blitz-capable armor unit up. Wonder if I should have, from the get-go, tried to get my armor out here and snooping around. All these different thoughts about how to handle this. And so the Germans will take Smolensk, and they will have a bonus on the next turn for production because of that. And should they bring the Italian infantry in as well, or should they bring their cadre armor unit in? I think we'll bring the Italians up there full strength. I think that what we're going to try to do is kill that unit during the Blitz phase. I think we have a chance to potentially get it pretty badly encircled and mess it up. So we'll see how that goes. Not able to attack here because I signed all my chits out here. So the second attack right here, this unit is disorganized, so it does not get the terrain defense bonus. So it's an 11-2, which is a 5-1, and there's no need to bring in, I don't think there's any need to bring in an air unit there on a 5-1 to make it a 7-1. I think we'll use, oh, well, no, you know what? We have it. We should use it. That's, yeah, we have enough. So that air unit will come down and be part of this combat. So that's a 5-1, bumps up to a 7-1. And that's going to just be a complete victory. And indeed, this unit is destroyed. And both of these German infantry can now move into that hex. And they cannot participate in this next attack here, though. So this attack against Kiev is, the defender is a 3, so he's doubled for being in the city. Kiev's not a fortress right now, it's just a city. So he's a 6, and that's a 15, 19, so that's 3-1. The Germans will bring in this air unit. And so that's 3-1, 4-1, 5-1. They have 2 non... Oh, if I brought that there, right, that'd be even more, but it doesn't matter. So it's 3-1, 5-1, yeah, 3-1, 18-6, 15, 19-6, right, 3-1. Oh, no, wait a minute, hold on now. We got rivers here. So that becomes a 3, so that's a 7, so that's 15-6. So that's 2-1, 3, 4-1, and then 5-1 for the non-adjacent hexes. All right, that should be good enough. A roll of 4 is 3 hits. So the armor unit becomes disorganized and is then eliminated as it's a cadre. And so the Germans will bring those 2 units in to that hex. And now we have our last attack down here. So you have 1, 2, 3. And now here we've got the rivers again. So 4, 5, 6. Not as good an attack as I thought against 2. So it's 3-1. It's already disorganized. It's 3-1. It's got the hex bonus for 4-1. And we'll bring in the air unit to make it 6-1. So that will be a pretty easy walkover also. Yes. So the German units capture this hex, destroy that unit, and you know, I don't think disorganized units movement is halved, so it won't be able to move up there and cut me off. So we can afford to bring both of the full strength infantry units up and potentially put some pressure on Odessa. So that's the 4 attacks, right? So that is my ground combat phase. And so I'm going to have to rebase some air units here. This air unit, I think we'll just rebase to Kiev. Why not? This air unit, that air unit will stay there in Smolensk. This air unit will... I don't know, it can't, I don't have any other, oh, this is an airfield, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I do blitz combat against that unit, it could come into play. Yeah, there's no reason to do anything other than that. So that's the rebasing, and so I will reactivate, or, you know, sort of re-rotate, orient these units as they should be. And so the next thing up is the Blitz phase. All right, so it's the German Blitz phase. And as we said before, for units to participate in the Blitz phase, they need to be adjacent to one of the Blitz capable units, which are these 2 big armored units. So only these units here can be part of the Blitz up here. And down here we have a lot of units that can be part of it, but it's unclear how much good they do. Actually, you know that these infantry units can come down here and close the door on Odessa. There's no zone of control there because that unit is disorganized. So 1, 2, 3, well, still only 4. They can't get to do an attack on Odessa. That would be a bad attack. But I wonder if that's what I should do here. I have not studied the operational victory conditions, so it's not clear to me exactly what I should be thinking about in that regard. But let's just go ahead and conduct the Blitz phase. So these units here are part of it. So to move into this swamp here would cost 2 movement points. Nope, it would cost an infinite movement points. Armor cannot do that, which is too bad because that could have given me the 3 non-adjacent hex shift, which would have been nice, but it's not happening. So now I think the question is it realistic to think about attacking this unit with only, that would be an 8-6. That'd be a 1-1, no armor bonus. And then this, so let's say I move this unit here for the movement part of the Blitz phase. So then I'd have 7 against 6. And I could get an air unit in there, so that'd be 1-1, 2-1, 3-1. If I did this, that would make it 4-1 for that shift. And then here, I can't bring this unit in, but I could get an air unit involved. So that would be starting out at 1-1 and then bumping up to 3-1. It's really not in the Germans' best interest to get that armor unit disorganized. On a 3-1, there is a 50% chance that that unit will be suffering a hit, and there is a 1 in 6 chance that it will suffer 2 hits, which would really grind them down. So what's the other possible option here? I think maybe the other possible option might be, what if those are hills. I think that the armor, I think that how can I trap that Soviet armor in but eliminate that infantry unit instead, which is an easier target. Hills, yeah, the armor can move into that. It would be 2 + 1, so that would be basically its entire movement. So if I were to move this armor unit here and then take this armor unit and go 1, that would be actually 1, 2, 3, crossing the river, going out of the zone of control, and then 4, 5. Then I could launch a really potent attack against this unit and just leave that unit there to its own devices. I think that's what I'll do here as the Germans, so they'll do that. So that's going to be one attack. The Germans are allowed to conduct. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. I've got some good stuff here. As I think this through, I can get that. I'll be able to get that easily. I'll be able to get that taken out. Yeah, this is going to be good. Okay, so this, that's a, yeah, I hope I'm right, that's an air base. Even if I'm not, even if this is the air base, that's okay. This air unit can be here. So these units now are going to move 1, 2, 3, and one of them will move 4. I'll actually do it this way. And then the Germans will end up launching an attack here, and they will have air support for that attack. And so now these units here are also activated for the Blitz phase. And so we should be able to get something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It can't get there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it has to stop. So I don't think I can get a unit right behind it, and I've got to remember that this unit's not part of the combat. So then the question is, so this attack down here is going to be 11 to 2. That's going to be, we're going to easily win that combat. We don't have to worry about taking hits there. So given that this unit's going to come back here, this infantry unit will move here to be part of this attack. All right, and so that's still going to be a 4 to 1, 5, 6 to 1. And so this unit here will move 1, 2, 3, 4, and it will stop right there. And the big boy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait a minute, 4. Does it cost 2 to move into the city? Can I just sort of like zoom in and take Kharkov? And yeah, I can. I have to move the camera a little bit. It's going to be shaky. 4, 5, 6. So that becomes Soviet controlled. I'm going to check and see if there's something about armor having to stop when it comes into a city. And then just to get the non-adjacent hex bonus there, and then this air unit will come up here, and that's a 3rd attack. The Germans are eligible to make a 4th, but they don't have any place where they have Blitz eligible units to participate in any kind of attack. So we'll roll the combat in a minute. I do not see any prohibition in the rules about that, so we will make that capturing Kharkov a thing, which gives the Germans a big production bonus next phase if they hold it, which maybe the Russians will make it a priority to retake Kharkov, but I don't think it makes sense. It's going to be just these 2 units here. It would be 14 to 6 to start at 2 to 1. 3 to 1 for the armor bonus, 4, 5 to 1 for the airplane. It could be 6 to 1 if this infantry unit had moved here instead. And this unit could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just sit there to defend the newly held rail yard. And I think that makes a little more sense, right? Whatever the victory conditions are, it's got to be good to capture Kharkov on turn 2, since it's a turn 3 sudden death. The other turn 3s are Tula and Leningrad. I just don't see taking Leningrad. Well, maybe this fella comes up here and we get some air power, and maybe I reorganize this unit. And no, if I had thought to there's a Finnish unit up here that is disorganized, and so I've been doing nothing with it. If I'd spent the money to reorganize it, I may have been able to eventually make it part of this, but that's wishful thinking and too little too late. So let's take these combats one at a time. So here we have a 3 defender in wood, so that's a 6. We have 8, 9, 10, 11, 15 against 6, so that's 2 to 1. 3 to 1, 4 to 1 for the air unit, and 5 to 1 for 2 non-adjacent hexes. So that should be a good roll for the Germans. A 3 on the 5 to 1. is in fact inflicts 3 hits and suffers none. So this unit here is dead and gone, and I believe that this is the unit that will move in. That air unit will have to rebase. So that's that. Let's come to this combat here, as we just said. So that's a 14-3. That's a 3-1, 4-1. That's a 4-1 to start with, right? 14-3, 4-1. Yeah, that math is correct. And then 5-6 for the air unit, 7 for the armor bonus in the open, and 8-1 for non-adjacent hexes. So that's effectively a guaranteed kill. It's over. Yeah, that's right. Every result on over 7-1 is 5 hits against the defender. So, bye-bye defender. And the infantry will move up here, and the armor will stay there, keeping a little line. And so that's an attack. And then we have an attack down here. This should be another easy one. You've got 9-2. 9-2 is 4-1, 5-6-1. If I could have moved this here to make it 7-1, is that? Yeah, I think that's worth it, because there is a 1 of 6 chance on 6-1 of suffering a hit. But that wouldn't have mattered, so this unit is eliminated. And it was disorganized, but not out of supply. So I think it's just a regular dead unit. I don't think it goes to the Hiwi's box. And this infantry unit, the mountain infantry, will move in here. And so, all right, this is looking okay from the German perspective, I think. So that's that. So I have to rebase some air units. Let me see, are there any? So this is a city, and I have verified that that minor cities act as air bases. So that air unit will rebase there. This air unit, yeah, I wonder if it makes a little more sense. 1, 2, 3, 4. It can reach Moscow from here. Let's have it here in case the Soviets launch a counterattack down there. This air unit going here is what makes, I think, the most sense. So that's that. I am going to have to update hex control here and do a little cleanup, but I believe that is the end, effectively, of turn 2 for the Axis as the phasing player. And, I was thinking I wasn't managing the German forces all that well, but this looks like this isn't that bad, I think. This unit is, at the current moment, is not up front, so I should be able to replenish it for the next fight. Even if it ends up front, I should be able to replenish it. So that will give me all of these full-strength armor units here and some powerful infantry units, and of course the devastating mighty Italians down here who are holding the fort. And I've got these units here that can move up. Yeah, I wonder if I might take Leningrad. Probably not. It looks like I have not. If I had left that unit across the river, maybe. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That won't be able to move in there, will it? No, it will not. So, anyway, that's for the future. But yeah, the Germans have certainly shut down this whole entire part of Russia here. And I think that's, I don't know, I think, is that about where they ended up historically at this point in the war? Well, I guess we'll see what happens at the end, but at the end of August of 1941, was this, no, the Germans had a bunch of units up here, right? Anyway, enough rambling and prattling. That is effectively the end of Axis Turn 2. I will turn this into a video that can be posted, and then we'll come back and play the Soviets.